Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first part of our 6-part webisodes on 5G. Before we start, I'd just like to remind you of a few webinar considerations. Attendees are reminded to ensure the volume is turned up on their device. Ensure you have a stable internet connection. This will ensure the streaming and audio will run smoothly. Attendees can ask questions via the questions panel located within the GoToWebinar control panel. By default, the control panel is located on the right-hand side of your screen. The chat function is reserved for webinar organizers and panelists to communicate with attendees. Attendees will not be able to chat with each other, however, are encouraged to ask questions. A recording of the presentations will be made available on the SAIEE YouTube channel, SAIEE TV. The recording will also be made available on the SAIEE website under the Events drop-down menu in the section Past Events and Webinars. This page is updated regularly, so ensure you check back as often as possible for new uploads and subscribe to our YouTube channel. A certificate of attendance will be issued a few weeks after this webinar once we have received the CPD validation number from EXA. I'd like to now introduce you to our host tonight. Sorry for that. Is Mlungusi Mkhwanazi, is the Executive Director from Africa Utilities Technology Council. A telecommunications expert with more than 24 years of ICT experience, Mlungusi Mkhwanazi is the Executive Director at Africa Utilities Technology Council. Early in his career, Mlungusi worked in the operations environment where he started from a technician to an operations and field service manager over 4 provinces in South Africa. He was later promoted to lead the program management department in Eskom Telecommunications. He spent 9 years involved in building critical telecommunications infrastructure. Mlungusi holds an ND in electrical engineering, which he supplemented with project management and management development program. He later obtained an MBA from the University of the Free State. I hand you over now to Mlungusi. Sorry, Mlungusi, you're muted.
A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's once more a wonderful occasion to be here. We really welcome you as we tackle this wonderful topic of 5G series through these webinars, as we are all still keeping safe and also ensuring that we are wearing our mask whenever we are outside. It is wonderful to actually host a number of speakers over the next 6 weeks, and I do invite you to actually join us for each and every session. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you Professor Sunil Maharaj, who will actually be giving us the welcoming remarks. Just briefly, Sunil Maharaj is a full professor in the Department of Electrical, Electronic and Computer Engineering, and currently Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, Built Environment and IT at the University of Pretoria, South Africa. He has a combined experience of more than 32 years in the industry as a microwave and RF design engineer, academia, and consultant. He holds a BSc Engineering in Electronic, MSc Engineering Electronic, as well as MSc Operational Telecommunication, as well as a PhD Engineering. He is also a professional engineer registered with the Engineering Council of South Africa, a fellow of the South African Academy of Engineering, a fellow of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, and a senior member of the IEEE. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Professor Sunil Maharaj.
Program Director, Mr. Mkhwanazi, our keynote speaker today, Professor Kunlun, and our distinguished attendees. Good evening, good morning, and maybe good night, which part of the world you are from. Indeed, this is a great honor and privilege for us to have this series, and we thank you for taking time to attend this. And we seem to have quite a good number of attendees, and that's very, very encouraging. So I'd like to thank, first of all, I'd like to thank the Program Director, Mr. Mkhwanazi, and the team for engaging the different speakers and putting the program. And as you know, this is a series of webinars we're going to have on 5G. And it's going to cover different topics and different themes and get different sectors of the industry on a broader space to give us input so that we have an enriched experience as professionals, but also the community at large, because as we know, telecommunications and ICT is the engine room for any development of any economy. There is sufficient evidence and data to show that the penetration of telecommunications and ICT has a direct impact on the GDP of any economy and economic development. And with South Africa having what we call the triple negatives, unemployment, poverty, and the big discrepancy between the rich and the poor, we really need to develop the economy much more aggressively. And certainly with all the thought leaders attending and the decision makers are involved in different facets can basically learn and share in these experiences and knowledge, so that we can all in our different positions and different activities position the country and position our industry so that we become much more economically strong and vibrant, and at the end of the day help with unemployment. And certainly ICT and telecoms is a very pivotal and a significant role to play in that space. And certainly that's why we thought of having these 5G series. In my presidential speech opening inaugural address, I spoke about the future of work, and the future of work is such an important part because it talks about unemployment and the triple negatives I mentioned that's challenging the South African economy and the world at large, given the current COVID-19 pandemic. And certainly 5G, I think, is going to be a serious catalyst in taking us from that quagmire. And certainly it's a very important aspect for us to apply our minds and engage each other and challenge each other, so that we learn and enrich from this diverse views, so that we have a good consolidated thinking about it and how we take the country and how we take the economy and how we take infrastructure forward. Because I think 5G and ICT plays a very, very pivotal role. And we're very honored today to have Professor Kunlun from here, and he's taking time all the way with this time difference in China. Thank you, sir, so much for coming and spending time with us when you could be spending time with your family and it's late at night there, or you could be sleeping or doing some other work, but you found time to share with the South African community. And that's very, very noble and very, very grateful of you, and see safe for that, basically. So without further ado, I'm going to pass you on to our program director, Mr. Mkhwanazi, to take us further into the program. And thank you very much. And please pass the message out to other colleagues that we have an exciting program in the next few weeks, and we'd like people to join us for the other events as well, for every Wednesday, because I think it's going to be enriching and diverse, and of course bringing in a whole lot of different kind of views. And I think we all can learn from that, no matter where we sit in the hierarchy of position. Thank you, Program Director, and I'll leave it to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. We really appreciate your kind words. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Dr. Kunlun Gao, Director of Computing Technology and Applications. He's going to be joining us from SAIEE, and just briefly, let me share with you his bio. As a senior engineer, Dr. Kunlun engaged in the power systems automation and information management field for more than 20 years. His research includes power and operation system and information management system, IP networks, cybersecurity, power, big data, as well as artificial intelligence. He has undertaken as many as 13 state level and 20 SGCC science and technology projects. In 2016, Dr. Gao won the State Department Special Allowance Reward. Wow. As a pathfinder on the domestic power system cybersecurity field, he has proposed a security protection strategy for the power monitoring system. He also directed to design, cover security products such as electric trusted computing platforms and network isolation devices, which have significantly enhanced domestic power systems security protection. Dr. Kunlun Gao, it's really an honor to have you here, and thank you for making time for us. It is now over to you, sir, for your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mahara and Mr. Mlungisi and Mrs. Minks. and thank you, AUTC, for invitation. And it's an honor to have this representation on behalf of the SAIEE SAD2. In the presentation, there's three parts of. First one, I would like to have a brief introduction of SAIEE D2. The SAIEE, International Council on the Large Electrical System, is a global non-profit organization in the field of the high voltage electricity. It was founded in France just 100 years ago. The scope of the SAIEE, excuse me, where's the scope of its activities include the technical and economical aspect of the electric grid, as well as the environmental and regulatory aspects. The goals of SAIEE is focused on the power system of the future and the improved people and skills of the future. From now, the SAIEE have 16 study committee. They have focused on equipments, technologies, and the grid systems and new materials and IT. The SAD2 is the latest one. The full name SAD2 is Information System and Telecommunication. And the D2 mission is to facilitate and promote the progress of the engineering and the international exchange of the knowledge in the field of the information and the telecommunication for power systems. To add value to this information knowledge by means of the synthesizing the state-of-the-art practices and making recommendations. And the principal areas of the interest is studying and considering the evaluation of IT technology to cope with the traditional and new requirements driven by the digital transformation in power industry, including extension of the distributed energy resources. Assessment of the technologies and architectures to ensure business continuity and disaster recovery. Also, the security strategies in development of the new networks of the future, and especially in smart grid. The four focus technical directions. They are telecom network and management. Two is the implement of the network of the future. And the third is new digital trends used by the EPU and new business services. And the fourth is cybersecurity. The SAIEE SAD2 has one chairman and one secretary and some SAG experts. Now there's 24 regular members from the 24 countries. And we have 12 working groups. And also we have publishing review committee and the task force Greenbook and the task force Africa. Now the active working groups are listed here. These working groups working areas is business related, such as IoT, AI, and information architecture, and then the cybersecurity and the telecommunication infrastructure or services, And now there are 2 working groups in preparation. This is digital twins and cyber physical system, and another is the application of 5G in smart grid. Also, the D2 have an active link with the SGCC 57. Every year, the SAIEE2 have 1 regular meetings, and this year will be on August in Paris. In this session, the priority subject 1 is benefits and challenges of the new ICT on APU. That's the AI, big data, IoT, blockchains. And the second priority subject of the session is new cybersecurity challenges. And the third one is providing packet switch communication to support EPU. Next year, we'll have a session in Tokyo. Okay, let's go to the main contents of the presentation. The 5G standards overview. The digital transformation is the most important trend of the power industry. There's 3 drivers for the power industry digitalization transformation. They are intelligence, connection, and data. And the 5G gives the very excellent connectivity of the smart grid. 5G connects everything, enable the digital transformation for the power industry. The 3 typical scenarios for the 5G, they are enhanced mobile broadband, EMBB, and ultra reliable low latency communication, and massive machine tap communication. Especially MFTC and URC is very important for the power industry. Before we talk about the standards of the 5G, we talk about the standard organization. Currently, the 3rd generation partnership project, 3GPP, is the main 5G standardization organization, established in the last in 1998. And the 3GPP involves the mobile communication from 2G and 3G and 4G and 5G. In 3GPP, the PCG, the Project Coordination Group, is the highest management organization and is responsible for overview coordination on behalf of the organization partners, such as organization structure, judgment, planning, and work distribution. And the technical work, such as the specification study, done by the Technical Specification Group, TSG. There are 3 tests now. One is Radio Access Network test, TSG RNN, and the TSG CT, Core Network and Terminals, and the TSG SA, Services and the System Aspects. This TSG is divided into multiple working groups to undertake the special standard tasks. In TSG run, we have 5 working groups. They are working on radio layer 1 and the radio layer 2 and layer 4, radio resource control, and performance and protect and the mobile terminal. And in TSG CT, sorry. There are several working groups working on user equipment protocols, and it working with actual network policy and chart control, core network protocols, and smart card application aspects. And in TSHA, there are 6 working groups working on services, system architecture, security, multimedia codes, and management of key switching and charging, and application enablement and critical communication. And the standards of the 3GPP procedure can be divided in 3 stages. One is proposal stage. The early research and development results of the member company are submitted to 3GPP for the proposal. Once it's approved, the project is approved as a study item, SI, and in this stage, the technical report TR is formed, and in the next stage is the working item. In the working item stage, the working process is as follows. Once business requirements defining, and the stage 2 is technical implementation, and the stage 3 implement the product specification defined in its interest of the business, similar to the detailed design path. And the results of this stage will form technical specifications. The 3GPP radio access evaluation milestone is from 2G to 5G. Also, the core network evaluation from R99 release 4 now to release 14, now is release 18. The core network evolution is from the circuit switch technology to packet switching and to evolved packet core network. The EPC is first introduced in release 8. It's very important for 5G core network. And now the 5G study and specifications evolution across the 3 major releases. It's from release 15, release 16, and release 17. The release 15 is the first commercial available version of 5G, and it's basically stable and mainly supports EMBB scenarios. And the 16 release mainly includes networking capability enhancements and IoT business support expansion. And release 17 expects to close next year, mainly include networking capacity enhancements on NR coverage, NTN, and scenario and requirements expansion, such like Light, NTN, MMTC, and the subsequent enhancement of the existing project of release 16. In release 15, the massive MIMO, NR, server-oriented architecture, network silicon, edge computing is firstly introduced. With all these features, the basic network capability mainly supports eMBB. And the next release is 16, mainly focused on the 5G system phase 2, intro IoT, and efficiency. Here is the enhancement of release 15 versus release 15. The first one is enhancement for basic capabilities, such as for including enhancement of MIMO, mobility, integrated access, and two-tap rack and carrier aggregation, dynamic access. And the second part of the enhancements is vertical capability expansion, especially TSN 5G line, 5G NPN for supporting vertical network and private network deployment. Also, enhancement for URLC in use cases Jungle 5G, in particular on latency and reliabilities. The third part enhancement is for operating and management automation and network intelligence, such as SON enhanced with self-optimization and solution of migration of remote interference in case of DTN, and also the network data analysis function, NWDAF. And the release 17 enhancements most on the MIMO, IAB, DSS, and other basic kit technology will be further enhanced. And the industrial internet, UAV, positioning, network control, interactive services. Also the satellite non-ground network, D2D, IBA, and other technologies will be studied. All the technical specifications of 5G can be found in the portal of the 3GPP. Here's the URL. This page lists the search results for all the release 15 public specification. There are more than 300 specifications related are release 15. And also there are almost 400 specifications related release 16. And also can find almost 200 specifications for release 17. They were really a big family, big specification families for 5G. But it's convenient for us to arrange or list the specification by working group members for the engineering and researcher. Here we list the specifications by working group. They're from THG group, RN from R1 to R5. And for SGCC, the group number is C1 to C6. And SAIEE, the group number goes S1 to S6. Now, let's begin with the specifications for group R1. This group is focused on the physical layer of coding and modulation measurements. The main specification are listed here. I'm not read every specification. All the information we can find in the homepage of the 3GPP. You just look at the number of the specification. And here is the specification for group R2 part 1. This specification mainly deals with the radio link control, medium access control, and the PDCP architectures. There are almost more than 20 specifications. The specifications for group R2 part 2 is radio measurement service data application protocol and the multi-connection. And SGAP is new protocol compared to 4G. And the part 1 of group R3, the main content of the specification is the application protocol convergence with the VLAN. The part 2 of the specification for group R3, they focus on interface between the run function for EUTRON. It's also involved. There are almost 30 specifications. And next is the specification for group R4. The first part is UEBS radio transmission and reception channel module for testing. The part 1 of the R4 is electromagnetic compatibility conformance testing, FR1 and FR2. Spectral allocated for 5G is specified in TS in this part. And the third half of the R4 is mainly focused on the conformance testing, OTA, IBA. And IBA is proposed for millimeter wave band in 5G. And the specification for group R5 part 1 is test environment for virtual mission critical services for RTE. And part 2 for R5 is NR 5GS test environments, spectral protocol test kit. The specification by Group C1 Part 1 is focused on NAS for 5G, 5G CN, UE policy for 5G, and the services over 5G CN. The part 2 of the specification by Group C1 is management for various services such as the V2X, IP multimedia, and AI. Next is the specification by Group C3 Part 1. It's focused on policy and control for signaling, application, network function in CN, and network data analysis function. We call it big data for 5G. The part 2 is network edge application interworking. The part 4 of the C4 is system services-based architecture and authentication. Oh, it's a mistake. Another part of the C4 is the 5G network slice, HSS services, SPAF, into 5G DDNMF. The last group is C6. The specification of this group, part 1, is SIM card related. All this is the SIM card. Universal SIM. And test specification, API, and CME interface. The specification for Group S2, Part 1, 5G multicast broadcast services, location services, V2X. And in this group, the specification also focus on the 5G system architecture, edge computing. Next is the specification for Group S3, Part 1, mainly focus on security. And the next part is also the security related. All this group is focused on the security. I think the 5G is the most security network compared to 2G, 3G, and 4G. The 5G is the most safety. And there are 3 specifications for group S4 is 5G media streaming. And specifications by group S5 Part 1, 5G management and orchestration for operations purpose. The whole S5 is for the operator, not for the industry company. The title of the S5 is about fixed mobile convergence, self-organizing networks, and inventory management. And in this group, it also deal with the charging management, because charging is very important for the operator. And the specifications for group S6 is focused on new services like mission critical communication, public safety, application layer for V2X services, and edge computing application. Okay, this brief list of the 5G technical specification. All these specifications, some of them are the new specification for 5G, but a lot of is specification that is proposed before 5G and should be modified for 5G. And I try to list all the technical specification, but I think I'm not the expert in the 5G standards, so it must something missed in my presentation. For more detail, we can go to the homepage of the 3GPP to find exactly the specifications and its background of the specifications and some other information you need. And it's really hard work to list the specifications and catalog by the working group. So I hope my work is not bad. The last is I would like to have a brief introduction of the 5G in smart grid. This is my study areas. And as we mentioned, the standard study of 5G is due to release 18, and some technical research is focused on the vertical industry And last year, the 3GPP produced a study item that is 5G in smart grid, or study on 5G smart energy and the infrastructure. And now we have identified 10 scenarios for 5G, special security isolation for the power grid. We hope this work in the next year. We can have SC2 run ready, and the solution architecture and key technology are defined. And in the 22, we hope CT ready, and it means the specification standard interface of each domain. In this project, we should study the use cases and the potential new services requirements for 5G system to support smart grids. There are smart grid services and the deployment requirements with the considering constraints such as the service lifetime coverage and ability of operation in high AM environments, and also the additional requirements due to the operational manageability, such as the ability to configure and monitor the real availability of the virtual network topologies. And the new smart grid use cases and the potential services function requirement has to be defined. The last, the communication KPI and services requirements for enabling microgrid, DER, and specially distributed generation that requires 5G wireless communication. Now we have 10 use cases. They are distributed energy storage, advanced metering, distributed feeder automation, line current differential protection in power distribution grid, differentiated QoS for transported crypto data, service lifetime for utility communication services development. And smart distribution transfer terminal, isolation demand for energy applications, and the utility end-to-end security. Here we show the two cases. The case one is distributed energy storage. Distributed energy system has brought new technical problems and challenges for the power grid operation. When the distributed energy is connected to the large power grid, the energy flow on the distributed power grids became more complexity. For that, the user is becoming both electricity user and a generator. The current presents two-way energy flow and the real-time dynamic changes. In this case, the grid needs a very quickly communication and very quick response. there's 4 sub-scenarios. They are in dense urban for virtual energy storage monitoring and virtual energy storage data collection. And the requirements of the communication are listed here. They are transformer interval target value, message size, date rate per storage location, and communication latency, reliability, and the station node density, active factors, all live here. And the case 2 is for the distributed feeder automation with the increased requirements for more reliable, uninterruptible, and continuous power supply, shorten the accident isolation time to milliseconds is required to support regional non-stop power services, which makes several challenges for the master station in centralized distribution automation. And the KPI for the communication KPI for the distributed feeder automation are listed here. Sorry, the communication KPI for the distributed feeder automation are listed here. They're very challenging work for the communication. And also a lot of scenarios for 5G in smart grid. And 5G will bring revolutionary innovation to the power grid and make the in-country have more valuable. It's the end of my presentation, and we have all these 3 subtopics. I hope my work could be helpful to you. Thank you. Thank you for the listening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kunlun Gao. We really appreciate that. We appreciate the level of research as well as detail that has gone into 5G as well as its applications. And we thank you for your wealth of experience as well as the profound research and coming to actually share that with us. What will be happening now is we'll be going through the questions, and currently we have only 1 question. The question was from Mlungusi, who was saying, will the presentation be made available after this session? Means, are you able to actually provide an answer for that? I'm sure it is positive. Means, can I bring you in?
Okay.
Yes, Lungi. I have just put in the chat to everybody's information that the recording of this webinar and Professor Gao's presentation will be uploaded onto the SAIEE website very shortly after this webinar. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I think there is a comment. I'm not sure if it's a question. Please allow me to read it. It says, Professor Gao, thank you for your presentation. Am I correct that another of the critical use cases of 5G is the operating of an energy market, in brackets, stock exchange, through real-time dispatch and financial settlement? Dr. Gao, are you able to actually answer that? The question is one of the major or critical use cases the operating of an energy market, which is a stock exchange through real-time dispatch and financial settlements. Dr. Gao, are you still with us?
Yes, yes. But in the user cases, we define now is not include the electrical marketing. We will mainly focus on the real-time control, not for the market. We have known the scenarios for market now. I think it's a good idea when the network will consider the electric market.
All right, excellent. The last question, which comes from yours truly, was on the slide when you're looking at the 5G and the smart grid under distributed feeder automation. Me being a telecoms person, so you made mention of a reliable, uninterrupted, and continuous power supply, and I saw that 5G availability there has got to be the 5 nines, the famous 5 nines, 99.999. How practically possible is that on a continuous basis, Dr. Gao?
Yeah, for the reliability to 5.9, I think it's very difficult because when we set up the 5G private network, we can use a lot of resources to guarantee the reliability. But when we depends on the public network, I think is the problem. It's not a problem of the cost. Or it depends on how much we buy the communication services for so high reliability. I mean, if the electric industry or the electric company can pay enough money to the operator, I think they could guarantee the reliability with enough resources. I think it's very expensive. It's my opinion.
Thank you so much, Doctor. We really appreciate you. Over to you, Mins.
I see there's a hand.
Yes, sorry. I just wanted to say, Lungi, there's a few more questions. We have a question from Mr. Vasu Chetty asking, are there any examples or pilot projects where 5G has been implemented by utilities? Dr. Gao?
There are some pilot projects now in these 2 years in China and in the feeder automation and in the distribution network operator and some electric relay protection. Maybe later I will provide some more detailed information about the pilots of the 5G in China.
All right. There is more question for you, Dr. Kunlun. I just want you to read this one from Prince Moyo. I just want to get it. Okay, that was from Prince Moyo. There is another question from Vasu Chetty. Are there any examples? Okay, this you have answered. There's one from Khumuto is also looking at, are there any pilots being implemented in any of the SIGRE member states? Dr. Gao?
We are now, as we know, we have no pilots in SIGRE, but I think in the next 2 years, some pilots will appear with, because a lot of SIGRE member country have no commercial 5G network.
All right, thank you. We've got another question as well. This one comes from Zweli. It says, will 5G be able to distribute clock for devices that require accurate clock?
Pardon?
Will 5G be able to distribute clock for devices that require accurate clock?
Oh. If they create, if you want some accurate clock, I think we should use clocks. We think the clock synchronous network is necessary for the power network, for power. And
right.
Because I'm not the expert for 5G, my study area is how to use 5G in the network. So this question I'm not confirmed. I will ask the 5G expert and then feedback the right answer. Okay.
Excellent. I've got that. I think we will appreciate that. I think from the questions that you currently have, there's the last question from Zolandile as well, asking, are there any of the work groups which are doing any work to integrate legacy devices on 5G? In other words, you are really going back, seeing that this is concentrating on the electrical utilities, and we know that there's quite a number of legacy networks as well. Is there any work group that is working on integrating the legacy devices onto 5G? Dr. Gao?
Any group is, I think it's not no particular group for this task, but some groups will be deal with this problem, such as SGCC, and let me see.
All right, thank you, Doc.
TIGCT, the group under TIGCT will focus on this problem, and maybe the TIGSA is involved. I think it's a really problem for the operator, both in China and in some other country, because we have to operate our core network 5G to support some key feature of the 5G, such as end-to-end network silicon. Without this feature, the 5G network is not a real 5G. So it's very important, I think.
Okay, excellent. We do have now the last question from Dr. Albert Slisko. He's asking a question: how vendor neutral and vendor robust is the security in 5G and its specifications? How difficult or easy is it for the vendor to do a backdoor into a deployed network? Dr. Gao.
I mean, how difficult for vendor to employ the security.
That's right.
Yes, the 5G is more security than 5G, but if they implement the high level of security, it's spend more resources and more the cost is very high. But in normal cases, not all the security feature is turned on in the real network. Although he have some security options, but this not all the options is turned on in the real network. And particularly for the mission critical applications such as power network control, although the public network can provide some cyber security capability, but in the end, the EPO or the electric company have to implement their own cybersecurity infrastructure over the public network.
That makes sense.
The United has a way for the mission critical application. They don't think the security of the public network is strong enough, so they have to do some more. This is the fact.
All right, thank you, Dr. Gao. Mint, over to you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. So we have no more questions. And any other questions we didn't get to, we will upload it onto the SAIEE website and it will be answered by Dr. Kunlun. I just want to thank everybody for their attendance. Mlungisi, thank you for hosting this very informative webinar tonight. And thank you for everybody in the background. We really appreciate it. Please watch out for our social media advertising for next week, Wednesday, same time. We have our second installment on the 5G webinar series, which seems to be very, very interesting. I'm learning a lot. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy a good evening. Goodbye.
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 Goodbye.